In the summer of 2025, a new chapter in Ukraine's defense story quietly took shape. A small team of engineers, designers, and visionaries from the startup Firepoint assembled in workshops of Ukraine. The goal was to design a new long-range missile that wasn't borrowed but created from scratch in Ukraine. The missile emerged from testing as a ground-launched cruise weapon with an extraordinary reach, capable of striking targets up to 3,000 kilometers away. Its warhead weighs over a ton, a force far heavier than many conventional systems. The design of the missile is purposely stripped of complexity, and the missile itself relies on satellite navigation that is hardened against electronic interference with a simple, durable build meant for rapid production. The early versions of the missile were painted pink, which was an unintended but memorable touch that gave the missile its name, Flamingo. By mid-August, serial production had quietly begun in Ukraine. At first, output was, I would say, modest, just one missile per day. However, the plans were absolutely ambitious, ramp up to as many as 7 per day by autumn. Behind these numbers lies a strategic shift, because Ukraine had relied on allies for long-reach weapons for years, but supply limitations and usage restrictions left huge strategic gaps in Ukraine's defense. Today we will explore how this missile took shape, who built it, and what it means for the future development of Ukraine's fight for freedom. For now, the story begins with the emergence of Flamingo, Ukraine's bold response in its darkest hour. For more than 3 years of war, Ukraine has depended on the generosity of allies for advanced missiles. Western systems like Storm Shadow and ATACMS gave Ukraine reach, but supply was limited and use was often tied to political decisions outside the country. Targets deep inside Russian territory remained shielded by those limits, and Ukraine needed something that it could call its own, something that was produced at home on its own terms. That urgency guided the design of the missile. Flamingo was built to strike where other tools could not. With a range of up to 3,000 kilometers, it can fly across vast stretches of Russian land, reaching air bases, command centers, logistic hubs, and naval facilities far from the front lines. Russian fuel depots, radar stations, and transport corridors, all essential for sustaining the Russian war efforts, are now within Ukraine's reach. This shift extends the battlefield, and it forces Moscow to defend areas that once felt untouchable, stretching resources and complicating planning. What makes Flamingo stand out is not only its reach, but the way it was built. Unlike the high-cost Western cruise missiles, Flamingo follows a principle of simplicity. Its frame is straightforward, allowing for rapid assembly in modest Ukrainian facilities rather than specialized factories. The navigation is powered by satellite signals shielded against electronic disruption, which gives it resilience in a heavy jammed environment. The warhead itself is unusually heavy, more than a ton, meaning that each strike carries immense destructive force. This makes it particularly suited for hardened targets such as bunkers, railways, or large storage facilities. And there is also the matter of speed in development. From concept to production took only 9 months. That kind of pace is extremely rare in modern weapons engineering, where projects can stretch over decades. Wherever it was possible, Ukrainian engineers even used the off-shelf components, trying to lower the costs and ensuring parts could be replaced quickly. As you probably understand, in a war it matters a lot. In essence, Flamingo is not designed to dazzle with futuristic features, but it is designed to be effective, to be produced in numbers, and to be deployed rapidly. For Ukraine, it fills a gap left by international politics. For Russia, it introduces a new layer of uncertainty. By late summer 2025, Ukraine had already produced more than 400 missiles of this type, and this number matters. 1 or 2 missiles can strike with surprise, but hundreds will begin to change the shape of the war. They provide the ability to sustain pressure, to repeat attacks until supply lines or bases are forced to move or shut down. The question is whether this can turn the tide on the battlefield, because a single weapon, even in large numbers, rarely decides war. You can tell from Russian Shaheds. Also, Russia still has layered air defense, but Flamingo complicates that defense in new ways. The long-range strikes will force Russia to stretch its anti-air systems, divert resources away from the front, and guard places that once felt beyond reach. For Ukraine, it also brings independence, because even in case of supply shortages, Flamingo gives the country a tool it controls fully without restrictions. The freedom of use combined with growing numbers could shift the balance over time, and it may not deliver a quick end to the war, but it changes the rhythm of strikes, the depth of reach, and the strategic pressure placed on Moscow. How can Russia counter the new Ukrainian missile? Of course, its first response to Flamingo will be layers of radars, surface-to-air systems, and electronic jamming. All that will be used to block or confuse incoming missiles. Of course, some will be intercepted, as happens with any weapons, but Flamingo was built with those threats in mind, because its satellite navigation is hardened against interference. Its heavy warhead means that even a single missile that makes it through can cause significant damage, and the growing stockpile ensures that Ukraine can launch not just one, but many at once, making interception even more difficult. You may ask yourself, why does Ukraine need a long-range missile if it could just concentrate on building more drones? So, compared to Ukraine's long-range drones, Flamingo serves a completely different role. The drones are lighter, they're cheaper, and easier to build in large numbers. They're mostly useful for swarming defenses or hitting smaller, let's say softer targets. The missiles like Flamingo, on the other hand, are much heavier and much more precise. They're designed to break through to larger or fortified targets that drones cannot always destroy. For example, like the underground Shahed factory in Alabuga. Together, missiles and drones form a layered strike capability, each filling gaps left by the other. The appearance of Flamingo is much more than just a technical step forward for Ukraine. It represents Ukrainian determination, the ability of a nation under fire to create what it needs with its own hands. It shows that even in a war where resources are uneven, the innovation can shift the balance in unexpected ways. Good example is the Ukrainian Operation Spiderweb. Flamingo, of course, will not end the war on its own, but it stands as a proof that Ukraine is not only enduring, but it's building, it's adapting, and pushing forwards with tools of its own making. My dear friends, please let me know your thoughts in the comments, and also don't forget to subscribe. My name is Operator Starsky. Thanks for watching.
Subscribe to UATV English and stay updated on the most important events, top news from Ukraine and all over the world, in-depth analysis, exclusive reports and interviews, all on hand in our channel. Join our community of viewers and stay tuned.